Hey, it's Kev here. So, something we're always trying to do in our businesses is to make more, work less, right? Hear that phrase a lot. What does that actually mean? What do? You just start working less and hope not to make less money? That's one way to do it. Just hope. Or you could have a plan. Plans are good. And I think the person who's conquered this best is my own personal coach for over 5 years now, James Schramko. He actually wrote the book on this called Work Less, Make More. And in today's recording, you're going to hear James answer a lot of questions about how to do exactly this. This is from Copy Chief Live, recent event we had where James came all the way from Australia to be with us here in St. Pete and sat with about 100 of us and answered some questions about how to grow your business, how to not stress, how to actually reduce your stress and your workload while doubling, tripling your income. Great stuff that we could all use. So I know there's going to be lots of useful stuff in here for you. Hope you dig it. And by the way, if you'd like to get all the recordings of Copy Chief Live, all 3 years now, 17, 18, 19, you can do so by becoming a member of Copy Chief at copychief.com/join. Right now, let's focus on doing less and making more. Here's James Schramko. Hey, what's up? It's Kevin Rogers. Welcome to Copy Chief Radio, brought to you by copychief.com. See how that works? Let's get into it. James, thank you for being here on day 3 with us again. I want to be close to you.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to get settled. Yeah, get your churros, a little coffee. It's all right, we're casual, but if you guys, so how many people knew James before this event? Raise your hand. About half, yeah. So James is from a land far away. I love how you talked about coming here, and that's important, right? I think Australians travel better because they know you kind of have to travel to do business.
Yeah, we're a smallish population, and certainly when I came across to that first big event, there was a sequence that led up to that. It was, when I was painting the ceilings in my house and working, I was listening to audio cassettes of Marlon Sanders and Yannick Silva. So a lot of our information was coming from the USA. And then just as I was coming online, John Reese did his $1 million day.
That's right, remember that.
And I remember thinking, wow, if this guy can make $1 million in a day, and I'm making $300,000 a year, maybe it's possible that I could do something online. But I didn't buy his Traffic Secrets when it came out. Then I remember I was down on holiday with my family I took this 1 week, we rented a house, we went down to the beach, and the whole week we were away, and I had a really hectic job at the time. I was inside the house going through the DVDs of the Traffic Secrets that had by now been put on sale. It was like $300 or $400, like when he re-released it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get this. So I started investing in my business. I was watching the DVDs and I'm going through and I'm like, yep, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. I'm like, oh, there's one idea that I'm not doing. And this one idea, I then went back home and I implemented and I doubled my affiliate business. I jumped from $5,000 a month to $10,000 a month with my affiliate revenue.
Wow.
And that's when they were marketing, Yannick Silva was marketing his event. And I'm just like, okay, I really can't afford the time. I really can't afford the money. So for perspective back then, I had 4 kids. Our house in Sydney cost me $771,500. I had $100,000 saved up. I put in $70,000 deposit. The bank owned $700,000 of the house, and the $30,000 got eaten in stamp duty. So it was like a lot of my disposable money was going back into the mortgage. But I thought, you know what? If I can get this one idea and double my income, I'm just going to do it. So I bought a ticket to the event. I paid for the airfare, and then I got on that plane and I went over there, and I sort of told you about what happened after that. But that was the big shift. So I had to come to this market to get up and running. But the really interesting thing that's happened, and I think why I've collected so many of the powerful American experts as my client base, is I was just really, really strong in the bits that they weren't strong in. So it's like when you had that story before, the lady who's really good at all the bits everyone else isn't.
Yeah.
I was the piece of the puzzle missing for them, and they were the piece missing for me. So as part of my journey, and it's probably really relevant to the topic, luckily, is I had to give up some of the things that I used to be good at. When I went online, back then at that event, I met people like Mike Hill, who taught me about CPA marketing, and I went into super affiliate marketing. I was driving, like back, when Facebook started their advertising campaign, I was one of the first advertisers. Back then, I was spending about $3,000 a day on ads. We're talking about 11 years ago.
Wow.
I was spending money on Google AdWords, spending money on AdBright, 7Search, and then all these obscure CPV networks like Traffic Vance and Add-on Media and so forth. And then I was making anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 a day in sales. And I was, for the most part, direct linking. I actually got so good at it, I sent one company broke because we sold so much of their stuff they couldn't deliver, and then they collapsed, and then I got caught out. I didn't get paid my commission, and going into that first Christmas when I quit my job, I just ran out of cash flow because I'd spent on my ads. It's like probably $100,000 in ads, and I didn't get all the commission back. So it was then I switched business model and went into the recurring subscriptions. So about 10 and a half years ago is when I started my membership. 9 years ago is when I started the higher level coaching. And I started promoting affiliate things that paid recurring. So it was a huge shift for me. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to protect yourself from single source income dependency and to try and develop a recurring income stream, because they're the things that will give you room to move. And then I explain, like for the last 10 years, I've never had a dip ever because of those two things.
I know, like, necessity becomes the mother of invention. How did your membership start?
So one of the people I met on that trip and through the mastermind was a super affiliate making $100,000 a day. I had spent some time with him over meals like we just had, learning about the traffic sources and his methodology and how it was working. And I understood what he was saying. And he, through that group, decided it'd be a good idea to do a course. And he had a $2,000 course. And they promoted it, and I promoted it. And my offer was, if you buy this $2,000 course through my affiliate link, I will get a commission. And what I want to do for you is I will coach you while you're going through the course and make sure you can execute on this, because the information's great and it works, but I just think you're going to have trouble implementing this if you don't have support, because it's pretty high level. And I know this material, I know the guy, and I've been doing this myself, and it's not easy. And so I will give you 60 days of support during that course. So the whole time the course is rolled out, I will support you. I opened up my membership, and one of the cleverest things I've ever done is I gave them a 60-day coupon that was free for 60 days and then would start billing if they stayed. And I sold 78 copies of this course. I got $78,000. My commitment was to coach them for 60 days. When I opened my membership, there was zero content. This is another huge mistake people make when they start memberships. They think they got to have a whole lot of content, and then they spend the next 3 years getting all their ducks in a row. I had zero. My first post was like the same topic as the first week's training. And then I said, like, what questions have you got around it? And when I first had the forum, I thought I'm going to have to be logging in and spending like 10 hours a day on this thing. Even to this day, I spend around 30 minutes a day in my community. It still blows my mind, the leverage available at. Someone suggested to Laura that she, has a service where people email her and then she emails back. That's exactly what a forum actually is. People send me their email every day and I send them an email back. But they're just paying me a monthly fee and they all share me. So it's a super leveraged thing. And after the 60 days, they were all having a great time, and I think 85% of them stayed. Then I found I started speaking on platforms, and as my offer, which again came from the Maverick Mastermind, I was in the middle of the Baja Desert, and I said, guys, I've been invited to speak. What should I sell? They said, sell a workshop. So 10 years ago, I spoke from a World Internet Summit. There was 500 people in the room. I think I sold about 80 of these workshop tickets for $2,000 each. So I made $160,000 in 90 minutes.
Wow.
And I was like, gave 50% of that to the promoter. And then now I had to run a workshop. Just imagine this. And some of them, I was a bit naive. Someone said, oh, I've got a business partner. Can I bring my business partner? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then word got out. So now I had 120 people, and it was like a bring your laptop event. And this is all I promised in 2 days. Come to my event. And like, this is in 2009, right, in Australia. Come to my workshop. I'm going to teach you how to research a market, choose an offer to sell, buy a domain, and then we're going to build your website and we're going to publish it live, and you'll be up and running by the time you walk out of the room.
And bring a friend.
Well, yeah, might as well bring you back. Oh, the funny thing with the partner, it kind of pissed me off a bit because, like I had this extra people. And so I got up in the front of the room. I can't believe I said this now, but I said, listen, if you've got a partner, I want you to choose right now which one of you is speaking, because I'm only going to speak to one of you. And it's like, and on the first day of recording, like the audio got lost, so the sound didn't come through. So I was recording this from Make an Information product, because I knew all about leverage, right? And I'd forbidden recordings and any of that stuff. I was like, this is before social media. Like, this is 10 years ago. At the dinner that night, I was like telling this news to a couple of people who'd sort of hung around, and this guy, Steve-O, he goes, now, hypothetically, if someone had a live scribe pen and if it just happened to record audio and if you came across it, would that be a terrible thing? I said, no, that'd be a great thing, Steve-O. He'd recorded the whole thing.
Oh, man. Wow.
And we synchronized it back to the video, and I got my first DVD info product, which I was then able to sell. That was like I was selling that for $300, and I gave people a 60-day free trial to my membership. So now I've already told you 3 ways to sell a membership. 1, off the back of an affiliate promotion. Now these days it's quite common. You buy this affiliate thing, we'll give you my product. I think I was pioneering that a decade ago. Another way is off the back of a front-end product, any kind of information product, preferably higher ticket than whatever your monthly fee is going to sell well. And the third way is off the back of a live event. Live events, which I still run each year, are the easiest possible way to sell a recurring subscription program. So there's 3 ways. We haven't even talked about selling a membership directly, which is, by the way, significantly harder than any of the other 3 ways I've just shared. I can do it because I've got a really strong podcast front end. If you want to sell memberships directly, I suggest you have a very warm front end, which for me is podcasts. I've been doing podcasts for over 10 years. My very first episode was with John Carlton. Yeah, number 1 in 2009. Wow. We were speaking at an event in Melbourne, and I said, John, could I come up to your room with my audio recorder and record an interview with you? And he's like, yeah, I want to. I'd purchased a digital recorder. I was pretty nervous, and I just pushed play, and I just asked him all the questions that really piss the copywriter off. Like, so what's better, long or short copy? I captured it, and I just knew that I should be leveraging this information.
Yeah.
And I guess I started doing what these guys like Yannick and Marlon had been doing years before. I just knew I needed to record stuff. And back then it was really hard to put media on a web page.
Yeah.
To stream video and audio was a big challenge.
Yeah.
I figured it all out. So I have probably recorded over 1,000 episodes now with over 4 or 5 podcasts. And it's like the easiest job in the world for me. I much prefer to talk, prefer no homework, and that I can capture it and then put it out there. And over time, I just wear people down. It might take years, but then they'll come in warm and they're ready for the offer at the right time for them.
When you're ready. Somebody shout out a through line that you just heard through all that James just said. Anybody else spot what I spotted? Leverage, that's a good one. Persistence, yeah. Authority content, yeah. What I see is almost like a ready fire aim thing, where you just, shit kept going wrong and breaking, and he'd find himself, he made a lot of mistakes. You didn't think, oh God, what if? You just unknowingly fumbled your way through these things, and it just kept getting better.
To exemplify that, and I don't know if that's a word, but it sounds okay to me.
Not like an ellipsoid, but...
Yeah. The first website that I sold commercially, a friend of mine found out that I'd been making affiliate websites, and he was doing sales training for a Mazda dealership. Sorry, Mazda. And he said to them, hey, I know this guy who builds websites. He's really good at it. And your website sucks. So maybe you should have a chat to him. So I had a call with them, and I said, yeah, I can build you a website. I said, it'll be $5,000. And they said, okay. And I did not know how to make a web form, like even a contact form. Like not even where you put your name and email in and get an email back. I have no idea how to do that. I didn't know how to upload a website via FBT to someone else's server. Like, there's so many things I didn't know, but I definitely didn't let that stop me. I'm going to figure it out. And I didn't even get paid up front with that. And my theory was, if they didn't like the site or they said no, then I was going to sell the fuck out of that website to 50 other Mazda dealers around the world, because I've already done the work. So I had the exit in mind before I went in the front door. But they did buy it. They also bought one for their used car division, and then they later got a Mercedes franchise. And then I did exactly the same for an injury lawyer. The big outcome of me going to America and then winning this prize and then going back to a mastermind was this idea, hang on, why don't I just go to those two clients and say, and do their online marketing? And I said the same thing to both. I'm going full-time into my own business, and I'm going to do online marketing. Would you like me to do it for you? And they both said, when can you start? And that was my escape parachute. That's the one that allowed me to quit my job.
So yeah, man, like just do things. I think it's not a coincidence that this happened in 2009 and all this started when there wasn't a million options in your face every day in different ways. I think the paralysis of paralysis of analysis is a huge factor these days. You see that now with people you coach more and more?
It's always been there, I think. Been there. I basically, because I got into podcasting, running live events, and doing a membership 10 years ago, I could do it without having any particular talent. I'm not as good as any of my clients at the things they do. I don't have half the talent as most of the people in the market. I just got in early, and I didn't let perfection get in my way. Almost everything I've got is still a minimum viable product. Like my podcasts are nothing amazing. We don't have incredible editing or sound effects or even ads. And I forget to do calls to action and all that sort of stuff. All I'm doing is trying to make something that would help my listener. And I'm in it for the long haul. And I don't even like the sound of my own voice. But recently a voice coach client of mine said, you have a great voice. And I'm like, wow, that's nice.
I like your voice.
So that was, but it did, I podcast for 10 years before someone actually said that.
I was just remembering telling somebody yesterday, our story. I always say it as if we met at Carlton's thing for a minute and then you popped into my head when I needed you. But it really was, you were doing videos then. And I guess where I was seeing them on Facebook, and again, Facebook was young then too, but I remember they always looked nice. You framed yourself nicely. You were often outdoors on your property and things.
Yep.
And it was compelling to me. And they were short. You were ahead of your time,
Way
I think,
ahead.
on that too. And that's what made it connect for me when I needed somebody who could help me build a system.
I was way early on that. And I would trace that back to the first Underground. I think I saw a video of Gary Vee. So it's way back to Gary Vee. You're talking about 8 years ago. I had a DSLR camera and a good microphone.
Right.
Like I invested thousands in trying to get the right equipment. I went outside, I got that nice blurry backdrop, a 50mm 1.2 professional lens. I had a whiteboard that I'd write down my bullets. I would think of an idea, I would then script it on the whiteboard, and I'd go outside, one-man crew, me. Tripod, DSLR camera, all battery packs, wireless remote, a light, my whiteboard 10 feet behind the camera. I'd record the camera with a remote, go inside, take out the SD card, edit it on ScreenFlow, upload it to Wistia or YouTube. We switched at some point. Then I would put it on my blog, come up with the headline and the intro, and then describe it, and then tag it, and then hit publish, and then syndicate it. And I did that all myself for the first however long, probably a year or two. I used to edit all my own podcasts as well. And then I documented this, and I called it Own the Race Course. And if you look on my Superfast Business channel, you'll see all these videos. They're still there, 7, 8 years ago. Now with Facebook Live and all this, it's super easy. Like I create everything I do with my iPhone. I made a video this morning. It's just a habit now. I just made a video this morning in my room that I sent to my... Now I make the video on my iPhone and then I just hit upload to Drive and my team does everything else. Because one day I went to my team and I said, this is all the stuff I'm doing. I don't want to do any of it anymore. This is now what you're doing. So learn the process. And they just took over. And we actually publish, I think, 2 or 3 videos per day. We do 2 podcasts a week. And all of this takes me about an hour and a half a week. That's my bit. And they do all the rest, everything from the blog posts, the syndication, all the editing, the tagging, the artwork. Like people think I'm everywhere all the time, but I'm really just surfing or watching Netflix. But I've got the system down. There's a massive amount of leverage in that. So I think I even tried to sell that service about 6 years ago and then 5 years ago, and it was just too difficult. They say they want it and then they wouldn't want to buy it. And then I think they're all springing up now, but I definitely was really ahead of the curve on that. But I think now I've watched a lot of the gurus and experts start to stop doing this ridiculous product launch fatigue and start going to recurring subscription. They're only 10 years late. And now what I'm doing, I believe they'll be doing in 5 to 10 years from now, and that is revenue share deals, which everyone in this room can be doing with your talent, more so than any other room I would speak to. Because it came from copywriting, the whole royalty thing. But if you apply it on a more of a business side and you have better agreements that help you get paid properly, then I think you're onto a really good opportunity.
Yeah, results in advance. Joey Persher's doing a lot of that. Ross has done a lot of that.
I don't know, if you're interested in learning about that and you're in some of Kevin's higher level programs, then I'd be happy to come in and share how they work on a private call or something. Yes. Yeah.
Woo! On the doorway. All right, so let's get into, I want to talk about effective hourly rate. I won't ask you for a number, but be very honest, please, and raise your hand if you know right now your hourly, what you're on average earning as an effective hourly rate in your business. Raise your hand. High. Okay, thank you for being honest, because I had no idea. And I'd been a freelancer 8 years, 7 years when well, let's be honest. My business was incorporated in 2006. I was probably doing it year before that. We've been together 5 years, 2014. So, yeah, almost 10 years. $50,000 a project, which sounds great, and we could do a lot of them over the year, but did they take us exactly 30 days? Did they take us 2 months? And so the first thing you had me do when we hung up from that phone call was do my effective hourly rate, which again is, I'll let you give the formula.
So it's your revenue minus your costs divided by the number of hours
You work to get it.
To get the revenue.
Which is something, that second part is something we tend to not do as freelancers, is even think about what it costs us to deliver the work.
It's not often mentioned in any online income statement. It's always revenue. All these ballers making millions a year.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're spending millions.
Yeah.
Like their wages bill per month often runs in the hundreds of thousands if they're making millions. So people talk a lot about revenue, but then they're a bit shy to talk about profit.
What's net? What'd you keep? So, I mean, just that alone was a shift for me. It was like, wow, it actually cost me money. I have to pay taxes on this money. You know, Bronco has the great spreadsheet, if you've seen it, that actually calculates all your costs of doing business and delivering a project. And it's so great to say, yeah, $5,000 and get $5,000. And then you do a little math and realize I'm getting under $3,000 in actuality for this work, right? So effective hour, I want to say I was at like $60 an hour, $50-$60 an hour.
And then, you know, numbers can be a little bit misleading, especially if you're talking about averages. Because if you were to take averages, then each one of us has one breast and one testicle. So what I made Kevin do is I made him calculate his effective hourly rate per product line. And that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah. That's what we do now. That was the next big shift, is like, oh, well, now you have this, and you have, like with Copy Chief, right? It's the membership plus the coaching plus the mastermind. It's like where, and it's interesting, sometimes things you think in your head take up the most of your energy when you actually put it out on paper. Like the supergroup, for instance, takes up a huge part of my brain because it is like being a father in a way to, it's a very close relationship. I care a lot. I'm on there on a moment's notice if they need me. But in actuality, looking on my calendar, it's a few hours. It's Tuesday, half of Tuesday every week to physically make that happen. So leverages, and then you can look at and compare. So let's talk about what we do with that. When I want you all to tonight, like, come up with your number. And you made a joke yesterday, if you hear some screeches, a gnashing of teeth.
It can be depressing, so have some Kleenex nearby.
But it's okay, because, you know, you have to start with knowing and measuring. And then once you get real, that's like almost, I think, often the first step of becoming a real business owner is knowing how much am I earning?
Exactly. Like if I did this with a designer and he might figure out that logos make him $8 an hour and websites make him $800 an hour, you lead to that sort of natural conclusion, well, why bother with logos? And they're like, yeah, why are we even thinking about it? It doesn't make sense. Once you work out per product line, then this little sort of quick thing, is there anything you can do to dramatically change that effective hourly rate for that thing? And if the answer is no, and it's not a high performer, you might want to just cut it, just take it off your menu, and that will leave you more time for the higher rate, and then automatically your income goes up for no extra time. Like you literally can work less and make more.
Yeah, like the example you gave with a web designer, somebody like, do you have other examples of people who had immediate shift just by stopping?
Well, even me, I used to have 10 income streams because when I grew up, my parents lost all their money, and then that little Christmas cash flow dry up, like that was, I vowed never to be in that situation again, ever. And I kind of almost overcorrected. I had 10 different income streams. But then I'd put them all out on a thing. I'd work all the income, all the costs, all the hours required to get it. I even put a few other little measurements like joy factor, how defensible is that business division, how good am I relative to other people in the market for that thing. So that, you know, does it have a byproduct? So there's a few extra scoring criteria. And then I could just set about eliminating, like just cut the bottom half. And just by doing that, I was able to do it. So where I end up now is I've got really only got 3 things that I make money from, but they're all kicking ass. And then I benchmark them against each other. So I have a little competition, you know, who's going to beat, is Superfast Business or is Silver Circle going to win? Yeah. And, you know, for a while there, Superfast Business was the most powerful, and then Silver Circle came in and took over. And then Superfast Business fought back, and then Silver Circle's like, fuck you, I'm going to beat you, and it comes back in. And then over the side here, like RevShare says, hang on a sec, guys, I got something to show you, and it starts getting into the mix. And you can dial the mix by doing things like where you put your attention. You know, like the grass is always greener where you water it. So if you've got a dead veggie patch, like when I went out in my courtyard the other day, every time my mum visits, she brings over some little off-cut clipping thing, and then we kill it. So, you know, like when it's safe enough time lag, then we put in the bin. But there's no point putting energy and nutrients into a dead plant. I could water that for the next year. It's not going to do any difference. So why do we water our plants evenly? We shouldn't. In your current service portfolio, you've got good clients and bad clients. You've got good products and bad products. Step one is to put the microscope on it, identify the losers, and get rid of them. In other words, you can make a lot more money by stop doing things that you're doing now without adding a single new thing.
Wow, that's really good stuff. We'll be right back to that conversation. I want to quickly tell you about Copy Chief, the membership, the full load, the mother load. What goes on in there? You can get your copy reviewed by working pro copywriters. We do new trainings every month based on the stuff that's proven, tested, and working best in the market today. Not just copy, Facebook ads, webinars, all the stuff that you need in your funnel to optimize your sales. You're getting it in real time from the real pros inside of Copy Chief. Go to copychief.com/join and see what we got for you. Now, back to this amazing conversation. The other thing about it is you'll start to realize what are your jobs? What are the things turning the flywheel, if you know that theory, right? And so for you, you always remind me if I bring you something, if I still succumb sometimes to opportunity overwhelm, or somebody comes to me with a hot idea that gets me excited, and I'll come to James with it, and you'll say, Kevin, you have 3 jobs. Number 1, take really great care of your customers. Number 2, get new customers. And number 3, produce great content. Those 3 things are what turn your flywheel. And then he'll say, so it makes you such a great coach. You never tell me directly. You say, so which of those categories does that fall into? And if it's not, I go, okay. So anyway, next topic. And
well,
I know
we created a filter, a rule. So Kevin had no rules before, and because that's what freelancers do. They're free. But we set a rule, and the rule that I had Kevin have to answer is, does this serve Copy Chief? If it's a yes, then we should definitely talk about it. If it's a no, we might want to think about where does this fit?
Yeah.
Because everything that doesn't serve Copy Chief is possibly a distraction. You know, it would have to be mega super amazing. Like he might say, I've been given a comedy part in a feature film. Does that serve Copy Chief? Probably not. Is it your lifelong dream and ambition? And he might say, yes, I absolutely want to do it, and I'd be prepared to just throw everything else under a bus. And I'd say, go for it. But he might also say, no, it's just a pipe dream, and it might not go anywhere. So does it serve Copy Chief was a really good filter for us to help make better choices. And you can start making better choices now by having a set of rules. So I definitely have rules, filtering decisions. Pretty sure I did a podcast episode on this, like some of the rules I'll use to choose if I should go ahead with a business idea or not, because you're going to be attracting business ideas like a magnet in a metal factory. Like they're just going to be flying at you.
Yeah. And
you need to be careful or you will take on too much. Another great way to mitigate the challenge of that is to put in a 12-week station. So imagine, this is something a mentor did with me. He said, okay, you're at Grand Central Station and you can buy a ticket for any of the train lines. Now pick, where do you want to go? And then he said, have you picked something? I said, yep. And he said, now go there, mentally go there. And we're there now. are you happy being there? And I'd say, yep, this is what I thought it would be. He goes, okay, now work your way back to Grand Central Station. Along the way, a train stops. If Kevin comes to me with great ideas or whatever, I say, great, put it down for discussion at our 12-week review. And then no matter what comes at him, because, it's like, even if you're in your own home, people start knocking on the door, trying to sell you things. You just get bombed every single day in your help desk, in your inbox, like things you didn't think of. Remember that golden rule: if someone is coming to you, not you going to them, then you have to be extra cautious, because you're part of their agenda, but they may not be part of yours. If you're going to them, then it was part of your agenda, and it's a much safer environment. So whoever it is, unless it's an offer to be, a bit part in a Tony Robbins film they're filming tomorrow in St. Pete's, you could say, listen, I'm going to review that in my next business review. Just like big companies, they come to you that thing like, oh yes, we've used this year's budget, we'll review it for next year's budget, come back to us next year. Like they put you off. You can do the exact same thing. No one can tell you what your rules are except for you. So you say, yep, I'll review that in my 12-week review points. So send me all the details and I'm going to put it aside and I'll come back to you then. And you put it aside and then you can pull them all out at once and see if it fits with your plan and then respond back and then move forward.
Yeah, it was like a good example was when I came back to stand-up, because Billy had made that challenge to me and I decided it was something I wanted. My first answer to him, if you don't know for context, my friend Billy Gardell, who's an actor on a show called Mike and Molly and is now on a new show, was playing the Mahaffey Theater right across the street. And he said, why don't you open that show for me? And I hadn't been on stage in 12 years as a comic. And I said, no, thanks, that's flattering. They can't do that. And then I thought, but what does it mean to have your own business if you can't do something like perform for 2,000 people? How cool is that? So I made it Serve Copy Chief by announcing it to everybody that I was doing it and making it an adventure we could have together and having lessons throughout that. And that's when I panicked a little and then called Todd. But the point is, when you know what your rules are, you can decide. It's not always an immediate, obvious thing, but sometimes you get creative with ways to help it serve that.
Well, we did, because you said I'm torn because that's comedy Kevin, and I'm now serious copywriter Kevin. And I'm like, well, no, you're not really. You're actually quite funny. Why don't you just be Kevin?
Yeah.
It's the same guy. Be funny. That's what makes you attractive in a non-sexual way to your
You keep saying that,
audience.
but nobody believes it, by the way.
It's like he's good at those funny videos. He promotes his events. He's hilarious on podcasts. He had everyone laughing at my event with his... he had a very funny thing in his presentation that still people refer to many years later. And I've met your daughter now, and I think she'd be insulted if she realised what you said about her. But anyway...
now you made it sound weird. Now I must have to explain the joke.
It wasn't weird. It was... Anyway, it's part of what makes him special and interesting. So it did actually fit the brief. So we were able to just blend it together and say, it really supports what he's doing, and it elevates his copy chief.
And it's interesting, and that's what was the inspiration for what you saw last night, the X Factor Spectacular, was that idea of you're all you all the time, and everything you've ever done makes you uniquely qualified to do what you do. That's why someone would hire you, and there is no other choice. And so when you project all that, people come to you, and you get on these calls with prospects, and it goes from what used to be, how much? I got 5 minutes, just tell me how much, right? Now it's like they're coming to you almost as a fan, and it's not how much, it's are you even available, right? And price is way down the list. It's like, I hope, it's awesome to talk to you. Thanks for teaching me these things. Thanks for being who you are. This is how you've inspired me. Are you available to do this kind of work? And if so, I hope I can afford it. How much is it, right? I mean, and how many of the supers have those calls now and they go, you told me that would happen and then it didn't. It's crazy, right? Because like Chris especially, he's a strong personality. People come to Chris as a fan now, and he has fans and people quote his stuff. And Abby's been through this. And I'm telling you, man, like remember how special it is that you're here, you're in this room, you do this thing that so many people need and don't understand. It's really unique and special. All right, I want to give James over to you, who has a question. We probably have time for about 2 or 3. So if you just run over to either mic.
You were talking about the rules, and I've been struggling with finding a mission or a purpose statement for me that keeps me going, because I keep reading and I understand that just having that dollar figure in front is not something you can necessarily control. What is some of the best ways to begin searching and deep thinking about how to develop a mission or purpose statement?
What are you so excited about that you wake up every day for, you dream about? Doesn't have to be business related.
I can't answer that question.
So I'd start there.
Okay.
For me, I just want to surf every day. I obsess about it. I dream about it. I can't wait to check the waves. I enjoy walking down there with my board and paddling out. And I've then made sure that my life can support that. I've purchased 3 properties right near beaches in Australia so that I can facilitate that for the rest of my life. I want to make sure that my business funds the lifestyle that I want, but that really sets how things are going. It means that I can't schedule calls for 12 hours back to back. That would eliminate the possibility to enjoy what really makes me tick. So start with what's so interesting to you and engaging that you will then go and do other things as a byproduct just to facilitate that. So find your muse.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Rachel?
Hey, James. I'm Rachel Mazza, and I help coach freelancers in their copywriting businesses. Earlier this year, or early last year, I put out a product that didn't do so well, or as well as I wanted it to. And a lot of the feedback I got was that I was trying to charge too much for what I put out for free as a paid product, which is the thing that you're always terrified of because everyone tells you that will never happen, right? No one's paying attention. And I'd love to hear from you. I'm very much the same, where I like to fire first and aim later and just put stuff out quickly as a minimum viable product. And I'd love to hear from you how you balance that careful tightrope of putting out something of great value that you're happy to charge for because you know it's worth it, and something that you haven't agonized over and let get caught in that perfectionism cycle.
Well, there's a couple of things there. Like, I've published a lot more products than anyone would maybe more than anyone here. I don't know. And I've been prolific. Like, I've had over 2,000 domains. I've made 72 products in the last few years. I do one a month. And some are better than others. Some are so good they can become standalones. An interesting thing, though, when I had owned the race course, that's what I was doing for my clients for $5,500 per month for 7 years. I then made a workshop and taught my clients that. I charged $2,000 for a one-day workshop at my house, and I had 20 people come and learn that. I then made a training for my members, and then I sold it for $79, and then I gave it away for free on my blog and got about 15,000 opt-ins over a few years. Same exact concept, sold everywhere from free to $5,500 per month as a done-for-you service. So I think it has a lot more to do with the offer. And I would say in your case, it might just be you got the wrong audience. Like, if you've weaned people onto free. So one of the other people who I coach had a dilemma where he'd practically promised people that he's never ever going to sell them anything. And then when he went to sell them things, they kind of backlashed on him. But he'd set the expectation. So for anyone who's complaining that you shouldn't be charging for this stuff that should be free or is a low price, just say, look, you're just not the right customer for this. Good for you for knowing where you are on the scale, but this isn't for you. I just find a new audience for it. There will be someone out there. It's like I often walk past the shoe shine stand when I come here to, in the airports, they got those shoe shine stands. When I was at Mercedes-Benz and when I was in the Army cadets at school, I could polish shoes better than anyone. But that doesn't mean I should set up a shoe shine stand. And so just because you've got that audience doesn't mean they're necessarily the people who are going to buy that product. So it doesn't necessarily mean the product's bad. It just means those are the wrong audience for it. There's plenty of other people out there who might pay. Like corporate, they're a classic. People pay hundreds of thousands in corporate for the same thing an online market would sell for $27 in the Warrior Forum. It's just totally different audience.
Yeah, really good point. Thank you.
Cindy?
Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy, the Experts Ghostwriter, and I help coaches and consultants write best-selling books that make an impact. And you made, I used to write elevator pitches for people, but then that was one of the products that I realized the money for dollars wasn't working for me. You made my jaw drop twice. The first time was when you said you started your membership site with no content, and you used this, your first post was the same thing. It was just, you blew my mind there. I can't imagine taking that kind of risk. And what I wanted to share is I took a risk in my business this year on something that went bust. I lost $10,000, but what I really lost was the time I'd put into it and the credibility of my brand, which is everything. And that's made me really scared to take other risks when I get ideas. And it seems like you've just blown through that kind of thing when it's happened. And I wondered if you could share how you stay resilient as an entrepreneur.
It's a good question. Resilience is a great attribute. If you read my book, Work Less, Make More, available on Amazon and Audible, you'll get some of my backstory, but I've had some life circumstances that caused me to be more resilient than most. And in particular, I had a role as a debt collector and regularly had people threaten my life with a knife or a gun. I also sold cars and spoke to strangers every day for a living. But I've spent money on projects that didn't work. I've lost money on end-of-year tax scheme before. I've didn't get as much money out of a property that I put in once or twice. I tried to do some software that just ate up money and I just killed it. So I have little rules and filters too. For me, if a business model can't make at least $10,000 a month, then I wouldn't even consider perpetuating it beyond a short period.
Is that net or gross?
Even just gross. But yeah. I mean, I don't do business models that don't have at least a 50% profit margin to start with. So my business is high profit, which isn't necessarily the goal. It just ends up that way because I've found so much leverage. It's just like Wayne Gretzky, you know, like take more shots. The guy with the most winning goals, he's also got the most misses. So you're just not playing the volume game. I like this sort of concept of ABC, activator behavior consequence. Let's say you had a loved one who tripped over and hurt themselves and had to go to hospital. And while they're getting treated, you go to the soft drink machine and you put in, I don't know, you probably don't even have, you put in quarters, right? And you push the button to get a can of Coke or Pepsi, whatever. And you push the button and it doesn't come out. So you're thirsty, and so that's the activator. The behavior is you put the coins in and push the button. And the consequence is it doesn't come out. So you're pissed off, you know, you shake the machine, the alarm goes off, they try and arrest you, you explain it was a mistake and that you've got someone in there and you're worried about them and they say, okay, fair enough. And now, next you're going on a holiday and you're at the airport and you see a soft drink machine and you're thirsty. You think, oh, I don't know, these things don't work. So your sample size of 1 is a very small sample size. I would say push through and try a few more things. And now, one of the ways that I've been able to maximize the success of anything I've ever rolled out is I almost always start with either my own problem that I'm solving, which is how I started my first affiliate campaign that actually worked, or I'm just getting asked by people over and over again and I solve their problem that's already been clearly established. And I don't mess around with the whole preference versus performance thing where, what do you want? And then they tell me and then I make it and then they don't buy it. I say, what do you want? And they tell me and I say, great, pay here. And then I make it. And most people, they think, oh, you can't possibly sell something before you make it. And I'd say to that person, if they were sitting in a room at a live event, when did you pay for the ticket for this event and when was it created?
That's the exact thought I have every time a hurricane is swirling a week before the event. I'm like, shit, what if there's no town? I got a refund? Is that what happens?
No, it is a huge risk running events, you know.
All right, last question for James.
I'm Marcella Allison, and I've been a direct response copywriter for alternative health and financial companies for about 20 years, the big guns in the industry. But my passion, my version of surfing, is the Titanides, which is a group, a membership for women to raise women up in the direct response and internet marketing industry. I feel like we've learned so much from you already because Kevin always shares, so I feel like we get the trickle-down effect of your mentoring, which I'm very grateful for. But my question to you is, when you're looking at a membership group, we've been using Facebook just because I started it as a passion project, so I didn't have money to build the amazing thing that Kevin has for a community that he controls. What are your thoughts if you're building a membership community on, do you want to control the platform? I know there's Mighty Networks now, there's other places, versus using something like Facebook that frankly makes it easier sometimes, but also harder. I'm just curious what your experience has been with that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's a great question. I get that one a lot. Okay, part of it's your audience. Some audiences are incapable of using anything but Facebook. So like, there are just some very, very low tech savvy audiences. There are some, like if you were doing social media training, a lot of them are like almost certainly going to be keen on having a social media platform. For audiences that are capable of not being on Facebook, it's sort of ideal to be away from Facebook because a lot of people get confused with engagement. You know, what's a better engagement, a thumbs up on a Facebook post or sitting in a room like this? This is 1,000 times better engagement. So I don't have a Facebook group and haven't for the whole time they've had them. And I think it's only a matter of time until they do something that's unpalatable for Facebook group owners. So just at all times, make sure you've got a CSV copy of your database at your disposal so that when the day comes that it becomes unpalatable, that you can then email them and tell them where the new membership is. The platform that Kevin and I use, we've been sort of developing that for many, many years, and it involves quite a few moving parts. And over the last few years, I've sat down with a member of mine, a client of mine, who I've ended up partnering with in a platform that I've shared with him everything I do and how I do it, that he's gone and created the perfect private platform solution that does everything you ever need it to do, called 10xpro.io. And that is what I recommend all of my students use if they're not going to be on Facebook. Yes, 10xpro.io.
Dot what? R-O?
I-O.
Oh, I-O.
I-O. So 10xpro.io. It's like a mashup of ClickFunnels, Kajabi, LearnDash, Mighty Mouse, whatever. It does deadline funnels, it does webinars, it's got social wall. So if your customer's capable of using that, that's all you have to plug into that is whatever email autoresponder you like, whether it's Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign, Ontraport, whatever. You should use a separate email system, whatever you're using, even if it's Facebook, especially if it's Facebook. Do not rely on Facebook, because one day you'll go to log in and you've been banned or it's gone. That will happen. It's only a matter of time. And so it's okay to use these platforms, but always keep your assets. So even if our website's crumbled, I still own my own videos and audios and PDFs on Amazon S3 or Wistia or Vimeo Pro, and I still have my email database, which is perhaps the single most important asset that I own, the ability to contact someone, get one of you brilliant people to write an email communication, and I'm back in business tomorrow.
Yeah, I always say, thank you, it's a great question, Marcelo. Yeah, just don't build on rented land, right? I mean, why would you? It's fine to test out an idea, see, will this resonate in a group? Can we do some? But even just the organizational capabilities of Facebook make it so hard to organize things in a way that people can come in and engage with. And I know we have some work to do even in our community because there's so much there. That's a problem.
Like I can't just migrate tomorrow. I got 250,000 posts. But what I have done, I've actually set up an installation on my old domain that I had before, the one I've got now, and I'm cherry picking the very best parts, and I'm setting up a new installation, and my goal is to over time migrate and sell it so that it's a good idea, and then prune. Actually, I've had 2 memberships in 10 years. We turned one off after 4 and kept the next for 7. And so that 7 years is getting pretty full.
Yeah. And the other thing you'll notice, I mean, you guys, if you're in Copy Chief, you know this, it's such a different environment than any social media platform. There's no chit chat in Copy Chief. Like, we have fun and there's some banter, but you log into Copy Chief and your mindset is different, right? You're there to absorb, to learn, to engage, and to make thoughtful posts. And I always think like that's where we grow in Copy Chief, and we sort of like shrink on social media.
Yeah, look, you go to work and leave your social media for generating business or for play.
And so consider the environment you want too, Marcelo, when you think about that, right?
That was, for me, the single most important thing. Like, I do not want to be on Facebook every day. I want it to
personally,
be
yeah, you don't want to have to log into it, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to be...
Same with me. I'm not drawn there. I just don't feel good when I spend too much time there. Okay, thank you so much. James Schramko.
Thank you.
Hey, you want to be on the inside of all the best converting campaigns in marketing? The latest, greatest copywriting techniques. Find out what's really working today from people out there making it work, doing the testing, getting the results, sharing with you, reverse engineering great copywriting, plus a whole catalog of trainings to help you do everything from write better story, better email, Facebook ads, YouTube scripts. We got it all for you inside at Copy Chief. Go check out copychief.com/join to learn how to become a member. And if you'd like my free book, The 60-Second Sales Hook, where I turned a joke formula into an irresistible sales hook that you can deliver in under 60 seconds, go to 60secondsaleshook.com and grab yourself a free copy.